everybody, and welcome to Lit and to a talk from the first-time author and self-publisher Janey de Nordwall. Becoming an author is only the latest chapter in Janey's life. Starting in the early 90s, working in TV production and going on to start her own film company in her early 30s with the self-proclaimed ambition of changing the face of the British film industry. She achieved this with her seminal 2001 short film About a Girl, for which she won a BAFTA, which I think we can spy behind Janey there. In another career leap of faith, which I think we'll see is a pattern with Janey, she then went on to create a brand new way for busy and lonely metropolitans to meet each other. With 6 dinners later, a dinner party networking success. She then set up British Arrow's Doorway, an initiative that finds paid work for people who might not otherwise get a foot in the door of the ad industry. Then, last year, another challenge in a give it all a go 6-week solo road trip. When we say solo, I think there was a cat or two involved that we may see doing a star turn and today's talk with her cat Kenny, the result of which was a deeply moving and tender memoir, From a Wonky Path to an Open Road, which, and this is why we're all here today, she self-published. After Janey has talked to us today, she's got a brilliant talk planned for us. We're going to try and get through as many questions that you might have. So what you will see on YouTube is a chat on the right-hand side. If you want to post any questions in there, we'll come to those in the last 15 minutes of today's talk. If you're on a mobile, I think they pop up underneath. So we'll get through those. And just to finish on, Janey's blood group is B positive, which pretty much sums up her attitude to life. So without further ado, I will hand over to Janey.
Thank you, Diane. What a lovely intro. I do feel rather special. I'd like to finish it there, actually. So, yeah, now, funnily enough, oh, hello, everybody, by the way. Thank you very much for coming along. Interestingly enough, I went to LitMac last year, when we were actually allowed out in person. And I attended a wonderful workshop with the editor, Kate Feld. A year ago, that was very early days for me because I'd only written about 20,000 words. And while we were in the workshop with a load of writers in the room, I felt like a bit of an imposter, thinking that I could even be a writer or even call myself a writer, as I wasn't even sure what I was going to do with everything when I'd finished, or even if I could finish. But I found the workshop so inspirational, and just sharing time with other writers and hearing their experiences, I left with a lot more confidence. So hopefully the information that I can share with you today, if you're looking to write, if you're looking to put pen to paper, if you're thinking about, is it publishing, self-publishing, is it traditional publishing, where do I go, what do I do? Hopefully I can answer some of the questions for you, and it'll help you move forward. So yes, as Diana said, I have indeed written and self-published my first book, which is in print on Kindle and as an audiobook. That statement alone still completely startles me, that I can even say something like this. I didn't think that there was a book in me. I think that lots of people think there's a book in them, and there is, and I never was in that land thinking, one day I'll write a book. So for me, this is quite extraordinary and very exciting. So yes, I wrote a memoir travelogue. It's called From a Wonky Path to an Open Road. And what I thought I'd just do, just to intro, was to just read the first chapter. It's only a page. So I thought I'd just read you the first chapter. This is the book. And I'd read the first chapter, which is called Who Am I? Chapter 1, Who Am I? I'm 52, single, and have no kids. My blood group is B positive, which is my attitude to life. I'm also dyslexic, which I found to be a positive disadvantage. I was educated at an all-girls convent in Cheshire. My qualifications reached to no more than a handful of O-levels, English language not being one of them. The nuns at school told me that I was thick and lazy and would never amount to anything. I have founded and run 4 companies. I've been a film producer, a managing director, and a board director. I've won a BAFTA, been nominated for another, and won numerous short film awards. Brought up in Manchester, I now live in London, and my home is my sanctuary. I have a truly amazing family and an incredible network of friends. But I'm lonely. I have a young British short hair silver tabby called Kenny. I own a blue 1970s VW T2 camper van called Charlie. I love photography, but I'm not a photographer, and have recently started road cycling, though I'm the slowest on the road. After 3 near work-related breakdowns, I left a well-paid job. With time on my hands, some money in the bank, and in need of some therapy, I was wondering what to do next. I asked my future 80-year-old self what advice she would give me. She was pretty clear. Go on a fucking road trip. Take your VW, your bike, your camera, and your cat. And whilst you're away, write a who, what, why, where, when of your thoughts, and you'll work it out from there. I started writing this on day 1 of that fucking road trip. I love the fact that I'm still swearing into my 80s. My writings may skip about like my dyslexic thoughts, but hopefully, when linked with my meandering road trip, they'll deliver the observations of someone who finally understood who she was, where she was, and what she was going to do next. Kenny and Charlie are the only named references in this book, so anyone else mentioned as a he, she, or friend can only wonder if it is them. So that was my first chapter. Now, when I set off on the road trip, I certainly wasn't intending to write a book. The point of the trip was to find some silence and to indulge in the freedom of being able to make things up as I went along. I'd been a producer all my life pretty much, and I'd been scheduled and budgeted to an inch of my life, but now wanted to throw caution to the wind and make things up as I went along. And it didn't take me long to realize that because of that freedom on the road, I was very much able to recombobulate, a great word. And it's fair to say that my midlife crisis definitely morphed into a life-affirming, life-changing journey. So when I returned after the 6 weeks, I was encouraged by several friends who had said that they'd really enjoyed reading my Facebook posts. I'm not a big Facebooker, and I'd written little bits and pieces, but they said that they'd really enjoyed reading what I'd written and they could really visualize where I'd been. And I thought, oh, okay, well, what I might do is write my story down. At least I'll have a journal of what I've done. But I knew that a road trip in itself wouldn't be enough to fill the pages of a whole book, enough to keep people engaged. So that's when the idea of the book came to me, when I realized that maybe what might be quite interesting is to start outlining all my non-linear, unusual kind of decisions that I've made in my life, which I then called my wonky paths. I thought that might be quite interesting too. So the title came very quickly, for a wonky path to an open road. And that's when the book started to take shape. And the memoir is now 2/3 of the book, and the road trip is 1/3. So once I began, I couldn't stop writing. It was flooded out of me. It was very exciting and very unusual for me to experience that. So I did the trip last July. I started writing in September. I'd finished the first draft by December, and then worked with an editor for 6 months, and then completed the whole book in June this year. And, you know, for someone like me who has really been terrified of writing, dyslexic, no confidence, you know, I can write a great email in bullet points, but it stops there. I did enjoy every minute of writing, and I would write about 5 or 6 hours a day, every day. So then when I had my 50,500 words in my hand, I just then thought, oh, now what? Now what do I do with this thing? Where do I go with it? Who do I show it to? And that was the beginning of many, many questions and decisions, and the reason why I'm here to talk to you today. So I'll be talking to you about how I chose the self-publishing route, and then what I did throughout. But it can be a minefield out there. There's a lot of information, and there's many, many ways to do it. So I'll talk about my way. Everybody's different. They have different needs and wants and expectations. But hopefully I'll raise some of the questions that you might need to ask yourself in order to start off. So what I've done a little PowerPoint, and I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. And we are going to, I'm going to talk you through a little PowerPoint. Here we go. So here we go. So the question is, traditional or self-publishing? Now, I'd say that if you go down the self-publishing route, it's all very much under one umbrella. It isn't one umbrella, but you can feel like it's all under one umbrella, because you have a lot of people working with you and for you. If you go down the self-publishing route, then maybe get used to wearing many, many hats. And sometimes the firefighter hat is actually quite necessary at some times. Actually, let me just say one thing, that within this, the first bit of my explanation is we're going to talk about, there's 5 elements that we're going to break down of time, money, control, skills, and expectations, in order for you to work out which is the right route for you. So time, a couple of questions to think about or to ask yourself. All the answers I've got in green were my answers. And that's why I chose self-publishing. So are you in a hurry to sell your book? Once you've spent a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, writing it, or 6 months, do you want to get your book out there as soon as possible? If you are in no hurry, then I think you can quite easily think about doing the traditional route, because from finishing your manuscript to getting it on the shelf of Waterstones, it could be 2 years, it could be a year and a half. It can take a long, long time. Patience isn't one of my virtues, and I just wanted to keep moving. So for me, I thought, yes, I want to get this book out now because I want to see what is next. Another question to ask yourself is, do you have enough time to devote to getting your book out there? With self-publishing, you've got a lot of hats, you've got to learn a lot, you've got to do a lot of research, you've got to do many different things. And if you've got the time to do it, or willing to devote your spare time into doing it, then I definitely say that the self-publishing route is good. If time is tricky, then again, look at the traditional route. So on to money. Are you prepared to pay an agent 15% of anything you earn? If you are, because you know or hope they're going to do a good job for you and they're going to earn you more money, then yes, definitely go down the traditional route. Again, wasn't really doing this for money, making venture, so I just thought, well, I'll try and earn as much as I can from it. So I decided not to go down the agent route. Another question would be, are you willing to invest your own money into getting your book out there? So I've heard some people say it costs nothing to get your book on a shelf. I have to disagree. Mine's the higher range of this, but it can, there are costs. You know, you can pay from £500 to £3,000, depending on who you work with. Who is your editor, who's your proofreader, who is your designer, how many mediums you want to go out with. So there is a cost, and if you're willing to put some cash behind it, then yes, you can go down the self-publishing route. So control, big one for me. Do you want to retain your copyright? Well, for me, it was an absolute yes. Once you find your agent and they find the publisher will own your rights, and then you just got to sign them off. And that's the deal. I wasn't willing to do that, so this is just another tick on the self-publishing route for me. Do you want to design your own book cover? Now, interestingly enough, if you have your manuscript and you go to an agent and publisher and you go, I've got these great ideas for the book cover, they'll go, not interested. We'll do that. We'll take your notes, but we do that. Thank you very much. And it's the same as film. Filmmakers don't get to design their posters. One of the big exceptions was Danny Boyle when he did Trainspotting, and it was one of the best, most iconic posters ever. So I think they should change their minds on that. Also, control-wise, do you want to run your social media? Traditional ways, they will do their own social media under their brand and under their product, their name, sorry. They will want you to do your own, but do you want to run your own and have your own message? Again, I thought it was nice to be able to do that. Skills. So here are some of your hats. Are you technical? Now, one of my mantras is I'm not technical, but actually I realized that I was technical enough to do this. So you don't need to be the technical guru to be able to get your book out there. As long as you're happy to research and ask questions and find the right people and ask them, and stay on the phone to help desks with Wix and Amazon and whoever. If you're willing to do that, then you're going to be able to do this yourself. Are you creative? Now, if you've written a book, I would probably say, yes, you certainly are. And you may have your own ways of wanting to get your book out there and thoughts and everything. So if you are and you want to keep that creative flow going, then yes, self-publishing allows you to do that in how you get your book out. Do you have any sales and marketing know-how? I mean, you know, unless you come from the sales and marketing world, not many people do. I sort of learned through osmosis, I suppose, from working in the film and advertising world, though I never worked in advertising. But again, there's lots of forums, there's lots of talks, there's lots of places that you can research and find as much as you can out about sales and marketing. Your friends might work in it, just ask them. You're only selling one product at the end of the day, but feel you will need to have built up some skills, because if you write a book and get it on the shelf, you have to be able to get people to see it. Otherwise, it's a journey with no end, really. Expectations. Well, do you want to be a #1 bestseller? My answer would be realistic. Of course, we all want to do as well as we can, but I would say write the best book you can. Write the best book that you want to write for readers to read, and always think about your audience and how they're going to feel. If it's a good book, it'll be picked up. It might be picked up. It might sell. There are no guarantees in any of this. You know, you might sell one book or you might sell 1 million. You just don't know. But you need the whole package in order to write 1 million, to sell 1 million. So I wouldn't go in thinking I'm going to be at the top 10 list of books in the Times or the Guardian within a couple of months, because that probably won't work or won't happen. You know, if you've written a book that you think you want to sell for TV rights and film, then the publisher and the agents, they have more links within that world, because that's what they do. And of course, the publisher, now they own your rights. They will also want to do their best to see if there's life after the book, because they will get a kickback as well. So these are, you know, 5 areas of lots of questions to start working out, is traditional right for you? And I mean, just to go back to the agent very quickly, it can take up to 1 year or 2 years to find an agent. And bear in mind, that is a lot of rejections to deal with to keep you going. And if you have written your book and you still haven't found an agent, then you may just want to get your book out there. So it's not the easy route going down the traditional. It's a bit of a corporation that you end up being in. And it's quite difficult for the little person to wave their flag and go, hello, can I come in, please? So once you've decided to go down the self-publishing route, this is when some decisions have to be made. Let's start on the first one. So the first one is, how are you going to get your manuscript ready for anybody to read? You know you're not going to go to an agent, so you know that you've got to have the best book. So you haven't got someone working with you to go, no, let's try this, do this, whatever. You need to remold it. You've got to run this for yourself. So the first thing, a bit obvious really, write a good book. And then when you've written the book that you believe is the best book in you, I would say you have to go to an editor, work with an editor, because they will make the book what it is. I found my editor by, there's a couple of companies out there that have banks of editors. There's also freelance editors, and each one will have their own genre. Know your genre, because certain people will only read and look at certain genres. So I went to about 3 companies who had a pool of editors, and I submitted 10,000 words or 3 chapters. I sent it in to them. They read it and go either yes or no, we think you're right for us, or our editors. So one of the companies said to me, yes, we really like this. We're going to put it out to 3 of our editors. And you still send the 10,000 words. And then their editors pitch back to say, yes, I want to work on this. This is my kind of thing. So the editor came back for me. He's written memoirs, he's written travelogues. So he's in my world. And I liked what he'd done and the kind of books that he wrote. So we started working together. And I sent him the book. And the very first thing he said when he read it was, well, for someone who lives a very non-linear life, you've written a very linear book. I was like, oh, oops. So he said, what you need to do for a reader to stay engaged, you can throw them all over timelines. So, you know, have a beginning, a middle, and end, but within that, you can take people from present to past to future throughout. Just make sure you can link in and out of everyone so it is a flow. I also think I thought an editor might write something, and they don't write anything. They just make a lot of notes, and it's up to you to take on as many notes as you want to. I took on pretty much all his notes, and they would have a couple of discussions about other things. But he was extraordinary, and we worked together for 6 months, which was amazing. So when we finished, I then read the whole book aloud to myself, paced around. I mean, lucky it's a short book, but it's still a 5-hour read. And when you're reading it to yourself, you know, it can be about 6 hours because you're spotting things, or 7 hours. Read the whole thing aloud, because you will realize where your sentences are stopping to flow. And I'm not saying it's meant to be poetry, but you notice more aloud than you do when you're reading in your head, because you're guessing your own words. And it's also a great typo finder if you do that. And then when you're happy with that, send it to some trusted beta readers. So beta readers are people, they can be the industry, they can be your friends. I did 2 friends and an aunt. And I knew that these 3 people would give me an honest appraisal of what they thought, because I said, I do not want you to go, oh, that's lovely, darling. I needed to be told if it was okay. And they will come back with notes, and I amended my book based on what they said as well. I'd say not to go through to too many readers, because then it's almost editing by committee. You've got to trust who you send it to, and then take that on board. And then when it's done, you get it proofread, and somebody will come back, and even though you've read it, the editor's read it, your beta readers have read it, the proofreader will find so many typos. It's extraordinary. So that's your manuscript. You've now got your happy manuscript in your hand, and you're delighted. One of the first questions, therefore, to think about is, what format do you want your book in? Now, again, in green are all the things that I did. So if you want a printed book, then you have two options to go down for when people buy it. You can do a print on demand, where you can find a printer that if one person buys it, they just print one book and they send that out. Great. It is a little bit more expensive to do print on demand, and the quality isn't as good, without a doubt. So I chose to go down the print in bulk. So I found a printer, and I printed 100 books to start with. So it's an investment. It's a bigger investment for you. So I did 100 books. They sent me the books. I mean, it's lots of going backwards and forwards with the printers to make sure you've got everything you want. I received the books, and 26 of them were completely dreadful. The binding was really bad. The way it was cut was really bad. It was wonky. 26 of them went back, and I had to go through and make sure that, the rest of them were okay. Now, printers can also send your book out if when people buy them online. And I said to them, actually, because of this, I will now send all my books out, because I need to do my own quality control. Because if somebody's going to spend $9.99, they've got to get the best book they can. So, find your printer with the best quality. And there's loads of printers out there. But not all do books, and not all do small runs. Some don't do print on demand. So again, it's lots of research of finding out all these places. Then you have your ebook. Do you want it on Kindle? Do you want it as an Apple iBook? There are different formats that you need to get your book saved as. So a Kindle is a Mobi, and an Apple is an EPUB. That's just a format. Again, you've got to find the places that do this. You can do this yourself. I chose not to, because I just found I wasn't that technical. So I just and it was taking me too long to work it all out. So I found through the print company, they suggested someone that did conversions. So I spoke to him, and we had a bit of a chat, and that was great. Again, lots of backwards and forwards so that I could get my head around it. I had pictures in my book. So whereas instead of having pictures throughout the book, I did pictures in the front cover instead, and in the back cover, and all that kind of stuff. So in the ebook, there's pictures at the end of each chapter. So I had to talk to him about how do I lay these pictures out, and to make sure that because you can choose your own font, you can choose your own size when you come to ebook. When you buy an ebook, you can choose whatever you want to. And I needed to make sure the pictures fell in the right places so they weren't scattered all over the place. So I did one of each. I haven't brought mine out on Apple yet, but I will do. I just haven't got around to it just yet. And then rare, do you want an audio book? I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, might as well do the whole thing and get a hat trick. So get an audiobook. Now, the funny thing about an audiobook is, even though I read that out before, I have no confidence in reading aloud at all. And that was very well practiced and rehearsed. And the thought of reading a book terrified me more than actually the thought of even writing a book. So that was a big fear I had to get over. And again, there's different ways you can do it. You can actually, a lot of voiceover artists, they build their own studio in their back bedroom or in a cupboard full of, blankets and cushions, and they get a mic and they can record it. And, it's absolutely fine. But again, it was just a bit too technical for me. And I thought, well, I'm just going to invest and I'll find a recording company to do this. So I Googled audiobook producers, and the first company that came up was the Audiobook Producers. And I thought, brilliant, I like them already. The Ron Siegel approach of naming your company. Spoke to them, and we arranged to do mine in downtime. So did it in the evening over 4.5 sessions. And each one was about 4 hours long. And it was a bit cheaper to do that if you do it in downtime, and recorded it. And he was incredibly patient with me. And, there was bits in the book that are quite hard to read out aloud because they're quite painful for me. They were hard enough to write, and then to read it is quite tricky. So that was a wonderful challenge. So now I've got that. And then I recorded it through a company called ACX, and they get the book out through Audible and Amazon. So they're your formats. And actually, just an interesting thing, when I wrote the book, I wrote it in Word. I didn't get a program. I just wrote the whole thing in Word. And then once I'd finished it, I saved it as a PDF. And then from PDF, that's when you get your ebook and all that kind of stuff. So writing in Word is absolutely fine. Now, aggregators, this was a new word for me when I started looking into this. I think they get them in the music industry. So an aggregator is a service that will distribute your ebook to many channels. And a publisher will distribute your book as in a print book to bookshops. So I chose not to go down these routes. I had some really good chats with BookBaby. These are all in America as well. There's nobody really in the UK that does such a big service, but they can take you from the very beginning of your PDF through to converting it to Mobi. They can get your print. They can do print on demand. They can post it out. They can get it on Amazon. They can do it all for you. Obviously they charge. But after a while, I just thought, you know what, I'd really like the idea of really learning how this works. If I ever write another book, then it will save me a lot of time because I don't need to go through all this again. And I decided not to go down the aggregator route. It obviously is a lot more work for me. So have a research about all these companies. They're all quite big. And you've got these really big contracts like Ingram Spark, a big old contract you got to sign with them. And it really feels sometimes it's a little bit too much when they're just not close enough. But they will do a lot of the work for you, which is a sort of in-between person, which is quite helpful. Distribution. Oops, sorry. There we go. So ebook and print, 2 different distributions. I went down, I know it's the devil, but I went down the Amazon route because I just felt it was easier to say to everybody when they say, where'd you get your book from? I can say Amazon. You can get your book out all over the place. You can go to Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple Books, Lulu. All these different companies will sell your book on their platforms. But bearing in mind that each platform, if you're doing it yourself, you've got to set each one up. Each one will have, you've got to load everything up for each one. You've got to get each one with all your meta tags. You've then got to get revenue from each one and then manage that. That was too many little bits and pieces for me. So I decided to do Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, and that's Amazon. And then print is Amazon KDP, and then Amazon Seller Central. Now I'm Europe only. I don't sell in America yet, the print. But what I've also got, when I sell on Amazon, if anyone buys my book, I personally get the order and then I send it out. So I do a little signature, I write to people, I do a little, Kenny does a little signature with his paw. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. So I control the distribution of all my books going out. I mean, you might have quite specific questions about this, but it's a huge subject matter. But again, this is where your research needs to come in. ISBN numbers, International Standard Book Number. If you're going to sell anything, you've got to have an ISBN. So again, different ways of doing this. If you go to an aggregator, they can give you a really good deal. An ISBN number is £79 each, or you can buy them in bulk. I bought 10 for 140 quid. But if you go to an aggregator, it might cost you $35 or something, because they are American. But what I didn't realize, and I realized at the last minute, if you buy them directly from Nielsen's, and Nielsen's is the only place that you can buy ISBN numbers from, when you register your book and you'll get your ISBN numbers, they ask you for your publishing company. And I was like, oh, I haven't got one. And they were like, oh, don't worry, it doesn't have to be a real one. It just has to be one by name. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I set up, that hadn't been used before. So I set up On the Road Publishing. It wasn't around. So I took it. It's not a limited company. It has no accounts, no nothing. It's just by name in order for me to own the ISBNs. And also just gives me a bit of a brand. So I've got like a little On the Road Publishing logo here. It's obviously not real. It's, you know, and then in the book, it also says that it's published by On the Road Publishing. So it feels a bit more professional and all under the same roof. So you need a separate ISBN for your printed book. Your ebooks, if you have Apple and Kindle, you can use the same ISBN. And then the audiobook has its own ISBN as well. So I've used 3 of my 10. So I don't know what I'll do with the 7. If I write another book and do an ebook and an audiobook, then that'll be 6 done. And then, you know, I've still got a few more. So that's your ISBN number. And your printer, actually, when you get your barcode, your printer will create this for you. And then they're the ones that will then put it on the back of the book. I don't have a price at the back of my book, so that if it ever goes to a bookshop, they can put their own price on. But sometimes it does have the price there as well. So they sort that out for you. Now, design. So there's a couple of things you need to have a think about when you're thinking about design, actually. And the first one is, well, not even in this order really, but first for now, how are you going to lay out the pages of your book? You can, when you go to, you can do it yourself through KDP Publishing. There's a little plugin that you can upload your Word doc or your PDF, and then that will convert it into the pages of an ebook. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that because it doesn't lay it out perfectly. And I think it looks like a book that's been done by yourself. I wanted to make my book look like it was something off a shelf in a bookshop. So if someone picked it up, they'd go, yep, that looks like something that is that I've bought from a shop. And it's down to when I'm talking about layout, I'm talking about the layout of the words, the lines themselves. You know, every book looks the same. It's spaced out the same. You've got the same spaces at the bottom, at the sides. You've got the right indents. I broke the rules a bit because I centered my first 3, but I like to do things a bit differently anyway. You're not really allowed to do that. Well, you can do anything you want to, but I did it. But yeah, you want to lay your book out, I would have thought, as traditionally as possible. If you use photography or illustration, absolutely fine. If you want to put colour photography within the book, then you're going to have to print your book in colour, which is very expensive. And that's why I opted for a cover design so that I could print in black and white. Illustration, little drawings, if they're in black and white, doesn't add any cost onto your book whatsoever, onto your print. So that's a nice thing to bring in. I didn't, but it is a nice thing to think about. Also think about the size. I never realized how many sizes of books there were until I had to choose one. And the funny thing was, when I was making all these decisions, this was in the lockdown #1, and every single bookshop was closed. And I wasn't locked down in my flat. I was in my aunt's flat and she wasn't there. So she only had a few books, but they were kind of older books. So I couldn't look at one single book to look at size and shape, to get an idea of what I wanted. It was so frustrating. So I could walk down to Waterstones and Foyles and look through the window and go, oh, I sort of like that, and try and work out the dimensions. There's lots of different sizes you can go for. I went for A5, which is not very traditional, but you can fit, printing wise, you can fit 4 A5s on I can't remember, an A2 or an A1 or something. So that there's less paper waste, and it saves money on paper and cutting as well. So I went for an A5, but yes, that's not traditional. But, you know, again, do whatever you think you want. If you want a square book, if you want a long book, you can do anything you want, but try and make it as professional as possible. And then the pages, again, all sorts of different colors. It looks white, but this is off-white. White is white. It's really bright. It looks like a corporate manual, so you wouldn't really want to go white. Some printers have an off-white which is almost yellow, and that looks really antique. Yeah, the off-white is softer on the eyes for everyone to read. And then the book cover, of course. You need to, you know, make a book that stands out when you're next to all the books that are in the same genre as you. So how do you do it? And I worked with a designer who has done books already. And we worked together because I wanted to use this Polaroid, which was taken on the first day of my trip by my neighbour downstairs. And I also wanted to have pictures of my past in, because I make comments about these. And I wanted a few images on the back of my mum and my dad, and me as a kiddie, and, you know, all that, because I tell stories about my family as well. So I wanted it to feel like it was my story, and he helped me with he did the layout, and then we worked very carefully on the inside grid. And what I've done with my grid is along the bottom and the sides, it's numbered and lettered as references. So when you get to certain chapters, it tells you what photo references are within the photos. So when you're reading about the Isle of Mull, you can find pictures from the Isle of Mull. And it's just a bit playful, and I love playful things. And it just makes it a bit different as well. I also put in it, all good road trips should have a good soundtrack. I've got a Spotify playlist at the back of my book. So that's QR code. You just hover over that and you can download the whole soundtrack from the trip. Again, just something very extra. And it's just a little bit of fun that people sort of talk about, and adds a little bit of extra value, which is good. So where are we? Social media. To sell your book on your own, you will have to use social media, Yabu. The first thing you'll need is your website. Set up your website. I can't recommend Wix highly enough. I've not used the others, to be fair, but I worked with Wix and they were unbelievable. You find a template and you can just adapt the template. And for someone who middle name is not technical, it's very intuitive, and their customer service is extraordinary. They will call you within 2 minutes or 1 minute if you're needing them, and they talk you through the whole thing. So I've created a website which has a section about the book, and then I can buy the book on my website as well. I've got reviews up there, I've got press, all this kind of stuff. So it's a great thing to have. I've got a website page, a Facebook page for A Wonky Path, and Instagram and Twitter. I mean, I'll go bottom up, actually. Twitter, I only set up Twitter because a lot of journalists communicate through Twitter. And I thought I could follow journos and people in the know. And, you know, I'm not a tweeter. So I struggle with that quite a lot. I find it a little bit of sort of wasted space going out into the ether. But it's just another presence, I suppose. And people have contacted me through Twitter, and it has helped sales. So, you know, you can do a little bit on there. Instagram, I only launched recently. And so I set it all up in a day, because I knew I wouldn't have new photo content to put up there because I've had the trip already. So again, I set it up so it looks nice and visual. It's another platform, but it's a place where you can also sell, which actually I'll go on to the next one now, which is marketing. This is almost my last slide, actually, just in case we're wondering, when did you ever stop? Marketing, first of all, I mean, actually, this could come in a lot earlier. Know your genre, know your audience. You can't sell anything if you don't know who you're selling to. So, and also with your genre, think about what shelf in Waterstones or Foyles or whoever, if you were going to be in a bookshop, where would you go? You only get one shelf. So you can't be a romantic thriller with vampires and you know, a love story. Oh, that's romantic, isn't it? Because you've got to find your one place. I would say mine is memoir, even though I call it a memoir travelogue. I'm a bit cheeky. But interestingly enough, I'm working with a publicist at the moment. They're saying, because of the book and the feeling that people are getting from the book, it's a lot more inspirational and could actually sit quite happily, even though it's not a self-help book. You might want to read it to feel like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. You know, gung-ho, let's all go on a road trip. And so it's quite uplifting. So it could actually move on a different shelf, but I'll talk to the publicist about that. Know your audience. I thought my audience was going to be 40 to 60-year-old women. And I was very wrong. It's 35 to 70-year-old, mainly men. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? But I thought the sort of the middle-aged woman with a cat on the front might make men roll their eyes. But I think the whole journey and adventure, it can translate very well to all ages and all sexes. So that's doubled my audience, so I'm delighted. It's good to get reviews. I'll do this quite quickly because I can see that I'm slightly, I might be going not over, but try and get some reviews. You get ARC readers, advanced reader copies, and you can send these out to people. They don't get paid, and then they give you a review. If a reviewer or a blogger wants to get paid, don't do it, because they've got to do it for free. It's just the way it is. When you start, you need to sell your book. So you need to contact the press, you need to go to magazines, you need to get onto the radio. I created a little deck. If I have time, I'll show you at the end, actually, where it's just a PDF of information about you, but it's very colourful. And it says about who I am, what the book is about, what the genre is, what the interesting points are that they could talk on the radio about. Topics, it talks about it has the price and the options and all that kind of stuff. So if you contact the press and magazines, they might go, well, send us something. You've got something to send out straight away. You can pitch to magazines. I've done it, and I never thought I'd be able to do it, but I've pitched to magazines and they've paid me to write an article about myself that promotes the book. Extraordinary. So I've got 2 pieces coming out in January. One for the very exclusive VW and Campervan magazine. So I'm in that. And then I'm also in Good Housekeeping in January for Personal Journey. 3 pages they put in for that, and I got paid. It was amazing. Going back to advertising, have some money in your back pocket to pay for advertising. Again, for Facebook and Instagram, you need to get your voice out there. Last slide, and I'm sure questions would have asking me about this. How much do you make on a book? Well, here we go. It all depends on how much it cost. This book cost me more because it's a double-fronted, gatefold. So I sell the book for $9.99, and if the book is sold on Amazon, I get $3.59. If I do it through my website, I'm obviously not paying them any royalties, so I get £4.10. In a bookshop through a distributor, I'd only get £1.41. Kindle goes out at £3.99 when they buy it, so I get £2.59 from that. If somebody is Kindle Unlimited, if you're signed up to that, that's great for you guys. It's not for the author, because we get 0.004p per page read, and if they don't read the whole book, you don't get paid anything. So I earn 66p per book. Audiobook a bit harder to break down, but on average, even though it goes out at £16.99, I get £3.62. So that's pretty much. I'm going to stop sharing. That's the end of my chat speech, because I think we're at it's 10 to now. I think Diana might pop back now.
Hello.
How was that?
That was brilliant. Thank you, Janey, so much. That was just so interesting. And I think from our conversation that we had before we started today, I can really see why you've gone down the self-publishing route. It just completely makes sense. But equally, the way that you've approached it is there are some with some of the formats, etc., that it feels like you've stuck to some traditional formats. And that's all about the kind of what the customer gets when they receive that book, and it's about the quality and all of those things that are really, really important. But equally being able to have it in A5 and that being very non-traditional, and having all that control over your content, how it looks, etc. Completely makes sense.
It's nice to have that, and that's what self-publishing will give you. It does give you the book that you want, but it's important to remember, don't just do what you want. It is for the audience and the reader at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had some questions come through, which is very exciting. And just to start off with, we've just had a really lovely comment from Kim Gowland saying, "I loved your audiobook, Janey." Someone has asked about how you collect the data on your readers.
Yes, well, I don't actually collate data or collect data. I'm sure somebody would tell me off not doing. So I can only see who buys the print. So when people buy through my website or on Amazon, I will get their name, I'll get their address, and I'll get their mobile number. And then I can post the book out. But I don't get any other information from that. One thing I should be doing, and I'll start doing this soon, is setting up an email mailing list, so I can keep communicating with people, so that then when the next book comes out, I can email people directly who've already bought it to go, hey, I've got a new book coming out. With audiobooks and anything for ebooks, I don't get anything. I've no idea who buys them. So it's Kindle. Amazon hold all that information, so I don't know. You can see, your reviews, people are reviewing. And because it's a smallish audience, I've sold about 200 books, I can start cross-referencing, Facebook and comments on Facebook to people who I've sold to, or people who have made comments. But yeah, data-wise, I don't really collect anything.
Okay. This is just come through from Catherine. Thanks for all the detail. I loved the book too. A good read. Will you continue with the travel theme?
Well, yes. The day I left on my road trip, I sent off the last piece of paperwork I needed to get my Irish citizenship, and I have now got my Irish citizenship. So I am now planning the next road trip in Ireland for next year in July with Kenny and Charlie, and I'll start outside my granny's house in Cork, turn right, and I'm just going to go all the way around. Take 4 weeks, 1,700 miles. Yeah. But I don't know how it'll form itself. It will be based on a road trip, but I don't know, whatever happens, I will work on it. So it's not a predetermined book as in a subject matter, but it will be based around that.
I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, and it might be that somebody needs to follow this up with you through contact, but someone has asked the name of your editor and through which company did you find them, please?
Yeah, well, I thought they were brilliant. I mean, I went to a company called Cornerstones, and I mean, they have lots of different editors. I mean, the editor is named in the back of my book, but he may not be specifically right for whatever book they're writing. Nick Herman from Cornerstones edited mine. So the best thing to do is contact Cornerstones and find out, or read their website and find out how you approach them. You realize that there's a way to approach everybody, from bloggers to agents to editors to everything. There's a way of doing it, and there's a way of emailing, and just do your research to make sure that you're approaching them in the right way. They get a lot of people in, but they also get a lot of people contacting them. But they can tell straight away if it's for their editors or not. But yeah, I couldn't recommend them enough. I thought they were brilliant. That's great.
Someone has asked, how did you get the reviews on your book, Janey? Brackets, or did I miss that bit?
I was skimming that very quickly. Now, there's a company there's two ways actually. There's a company I went through called Book Sirens. Again, you just Google Book Sirens. It's a company in America, and they have a bank of ARC readers. These are the advanced copy readers. So I paid $10 to go on their books as an author, and I pay Book Sirens $2 per person who reads them. The ARC readers get nothing, but they give you an honest appraisal. So you might get a really crap review, but it's because they didn't like the book, and then you just gotta go, all right, fair enough. I also found bloggers. There's bloggers all over the place, but they will only look at the genres they want to. So I had to find memoir, I had to find travel. And then I also send out little postcards to everybody about 2 months after they have bought the book to me, because I've got their addresses, saying, hope you love the book, can you give me a review, please? Lots of love, Janey and Kenny. So ask for reviews and get your friends to give you reviews as well, because your friends can really help you get some good ones out there. I mean, I've had, it's mainly, I mean, I'm proud to say 5 stars, then a couple of 4, and then a 1 star.
Oh,
What
I guess with your self-publishing, that's what's lovely, is that you've got that connection, haven't you, with people who are buying and reading your book, and that's lovely. And I guess if you're building and you're looking to write another book or go on another adventure, then you're building those audience and readers and taking them along with you.
Definitely, yeah. And I'm realizing that it is a conversation. Once your book is out there, it's no longer your book, it's how everybody else deals with it. And that's a really interesting concept. And I didn't think that would be, I didn't even imagine it to be a concept to even think about. But the book is out and people will take from it what they want and what they need. So it's really, really interesting.
I just had a couple of questions. I was wondering, how many copies do you keep, of the book ready for distribution?
Well, there's a little pile over there that Kenny loves sitting on. So far, I got 100 first of all, and then they replaced the 26 that weren't very good. And they went quite quickly, actually. And then I got another 150. So I got 250 altogether. And so I've probably got about, 75 over here, something like that. And then obviously the rest is just audio and digital. So book-wise, yeah, I don't think I'll do more than 100, 150 at a time.
I've just got one final question, and then we will have to hop off. And it's just very selfishly from Lit's perspective.
Okay.
I was wondering, what did you get the most out of that workshop that you had with Kate Feld last year?
Oh. Well, I think it was just the way that she ran the workshop. And as a new writer, I didn't know what to expect at all. And I was dreadfully nervous about turning up. But I realized that everybody else in the room was all feeling the same. And I think you realize this in life anyway. We all feel like imposters. And we just did exercises, and we talked about, we didn't read anything out that we'd written because it wasn't flash fiction or anything, but she just made us think about ways of approaching, best ways of places to write. And just through the hour or 2 hours or whatever it was, I just realized that the decisions that I was making were the right decisions, and I was doing the right things. So it just gave me the confidence to go, yeah, that worked. That was brilliant. And I just felt I suddenly felt part of the fold. And that's enough to make you sit a little bit higher and go, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much. And I really think that talk today and answering some of those questions will help other people feel the same about being brought into the fold.
I hope so. Yeah.
We're gonna share Janey's we've already shared some links in the description of this video.
Yeah, they're just some good research links for people to dive into to have a look. But yeah.
And also on the litmac.org website, you will be able to watch this video again afterwards, share it, and we're also going to share information on Janey's website and the Amazon link where you can buy the book. So thank you ever so much, Janey.
It's been lovely. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much indeed as well. And I hope everyone got something out of it.
Lovely. Thank you, Janey.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.